Hello, guys, and welcome to the Tracy Show. And yes, I am here with another video. Just to remind you, just in case you forgot, today marks 60 years. A landmark piece of voting rights legislation was signed into law. Even though Donald Trump is trying to mess us up, let's not forget. 60 years ago today, a landmark piece of voting rights legislation was signed into law, a policy that has aimed to course correct America's wobbled experiment of representative democracy. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson on August 6 of that year, effectively prohibited racial discrimination in voting and required federal oversight to ensure its implementation. Before then, Americans were routinely denied access to the ballot box based on the color of their skin, despite such practices being prohibited for nearly a century. But people in power still threaten Black and brown residents, including women of color, who had been excluded from the promise of the 19th Amendment in 1920 with poll taxes, literacy tests, and violence. It would take decades of protests, organized in part by Black women and culminating in brutal public violence, to get Congress to take action. But the promise of the now seminal Voting Rights Act is at risk as Americans mark this milestone anniversary. The Supreme Court has struck down key aspects of the law and is poised to further challenge its provisions around race. It also has made it harder to challenge racialized voting maps. President Donald Trump, who spread disinformation about his 2020 election loss to incite violence at the Capitol, is now attempting to overhaul how elections are run in the United States, in part by demanding proof of citizenship, a policy that could disproportionately impact women and transgender people. This comes as the Attorney General guts the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division that helped enforce the federal laws that protect the right to vote and seeks sensitive state voter records. The 19th continues to report on the fight for voting rights through the lens of everyday people, the women-led election workforce, the freedom fighters still around today, the queer and trans activists, and the local organizers. They are all still seeking equal access to the ballot box on behalf of their communities, and that work isn't going away soon. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 substantially gutted discriminatory Jim Crow laws, but the Voting Rights Act of 1965 dealt the final blow to them. And I will read a quote by Danielle Lang. "The right to vote is foundational to our democracy," she said. "And our democracy is foundational to our freedoms more generally, to order our lives as a community, to try to find shared values and govern ourselves according to those shared values, rather than live under the tyranny of elites and under authoritarian regime." The question of who will be able to vote in coming elections, however, is not obvious. In April, the U.S. House of Representatives passed H.R. 22, the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, also known as the SAVE Act. It's now before the Senate. The bill has been highly controversial because it forces voters to prove citizenship through documentation like a birth certificate. 60 years ago, the country recognized that it was not living up to its ideals and passed landmark legislation that was stripping away barriers to voting, Lang said, and the SAVE legislation would do exactly the opposite. I know Dr. Martin Luther King is turning over in his grave now for all of the hard work that he has done. So, everyone, let's continue to fight. There aren't any kings, not in the United States of America. Not at all. Trump, you are not a king, and you will not win. Trump, you are such a disgrace to the United States of America. You are nothing but chaos, corruption, cover up, coercion, pedo. You're like poison. Happy birthday, Voting Rights Act. We will win. We will win. The American people will win.